What's up guys, let's turn some tough cuts of meat into something tender and delicious. Today is all about braising, and along the way, I'll explain why each step is essential to mastering this technique. To demonstrate this technique, I'm going to use a 4-pound beef bottom round. This cut is lean and tough, which makes it ideal for braising. We're going to begin by removing the outer fatty layer, but leaving some behind to keep the beef moist as it braises. As you're trimming off the fat, be careful to not take off too much meat in the process. Here I'm taking off little chunks at a time to ensure I'm only removing the fat. But if you do trim off a little bit of meat, don't worry, it happens. It's inevitable to cut off some of the meat as you go. Then we're going to cut the beef into 4 equally sized pieces. This is going to help speed up the braising process and allow the beef to fit more evenly in our Dutch oven. All that connective tissue and fat you see throughout the meat is going to slowly dissolve as it braises. This is why we braise meats low and slow so that the collagen and fat has a chance to break down. A general rule of thumb is the lower and slower you braise, the more tender and flavorful your dish will become. I like to braise between 300 and 325 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere between 2 and 3 hours. After trimming and portioning, generously salt the beef and let it sit for about 5 minutes. This is going to enhance the beef's flavor and help draw some of the moisture on the surface, aiding in developing a deep sear later on. Be generous with seasoning on both sides. It may seem like a lot of salt, but it's essential to help the flavor penetrate deep into the muscle fibers. For the base of our braising liquid, we're using a classic mix of onions, carrots, and celery, known as a mirepoix. There's no need for any fancy cuts here, as the veggies will break down during the braising process. I prefer to cut them into bigger pieces so that it's easier to fish them out later on. I'm also going to throw in 3 cloves of smashed garlic for some extra flavor. Smashing instead of mincing will impart a less intense garlic flavor to the dish. Now that all our veggies are prepped, it's time to sear the beef. Before getting started, I recommend opening up some windows to avoid setting off your fire alarm, as this part can get a little smoky. Heat up some vegetable oil until it's shimmering hot, and then we're going to sear the beef pieces until they're golden brown on each side. This is going to do a couple of important things. First, it's going to help develop a rich caramelized crust that adds flavor, and second, it's going to help the beef retain its moisture during the long braising process, keeping it juicy and tender. Once the beef is nicely seared, we're going to take it out and set it aside. In the same Dutch oven, we'll toss in our chopped onions, celery, carrots, and garlic. Cooking the veggies in the same pot allows them to soak up all those flavorful brown bits left from the beef, also known as the fond. Let the vegetables cook down for about 5 minutes, softening them up and bringing out their natural sweetness. Then add some freshly ground black pepper and a few large pinches of salt. Then it's time to add some tomato sauce and 4 cups of beef broth. The tomato sauce adds a rich, tangy depth to our braising liquid, while the beef broth provides the necessary moisture to slowly cook the meat. With our braising liquid ready, return the seared beef pieces back to the pot, nestling them among the vegetables and broth until they're about 3/4 submerged. This is going to ensure that the meat cooks evenly and absorbs all the flavors. To infuse even more flavor, add a generous amount of thyme. Herbs like thyme are essential in braising, as they impart a subtle aroma and flavor to the braising liquid. Now cover the Dutch oven and place it in a preheated 325 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 2 hours. The low and steady heat breaks down the connective tissues and collagen in the beef, turning it incredibly tender as it cooks. It should look like this, and the liquid should be reduced by 1/4. We're going to place the beef in a separate bowl to cool down and ensure the juices redistribute throughout the meat. Then we're going to remove the thyme and vegetables from the broth. This stuff is liquid gold, and we're going to make a sauce from it by reducing it by half. If you want to, you can save the vegetables and eat them with the braised beef, but they'll be a bit mushy from cooking for so long. I usually just discard them, as all the flavor is now imparted into the broth. To make our braising liquid into a sauce, we're going to put it on medium-low and let it simmer until it's reduced by about half. Make sure to wait until it's reduced before you add any more seasoning, as the flavors will concentrate the longer it reduces. It needed a touch more salt here, so I added a pinch. Now that our sauce is ready, transfer it into a bowl, and then we're going to use it to baste the finished beef. You can serve it like this, or you can don a pair of gloves and shred the beef by pulling it apart. This can be done with other meats as well, like chicken thighs to get shredded chicken, or pork shoulder to get pulled pork. Put some more of that sauce on top and you'll have the most tender and flavorful shredded beef ever. You can use this to make a ton of stuff like tacos, wraps, and pasta. I used it to whip up a quick beef stroganoff for dinner, and it was great. Now you can braise any tough cut of meat to perfection. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.